And we are back, episode 4. We're back. It's me and the Price brothers, Daniel and Anthony, yet again. No Tennyson for this episode, unfortunately. He's going to be back. I promise he'll be back, all right? He's got articles up on the website. Go read them. It's a special episode for us. We're all wearing pink. We're all showing up our pink. And I'm going to refer to the Sports King board very early. This is our first ever pink out. Anthony, go ahead and explain the pink out to everyone.
Okay, so we are in October, and it's the National Month of Awareness for Breast Cancer. And with COVID-19 going on for the past couple of months, we just want to make sure that we don't forget about this month and how important it is. Breast cancer is the most common cancer for women in America, and men can develop breast cancer too. And we want to find ways to donate, and to ways how you can find that is go online, search up breast cancer foundations. They'll give you a bunch. There's a bunch out there. Go on the website, read about it, look at their goal, look at their missions, and see if there's events going to be held, and help donate. And even if you don't want to go online, within your community, get your friends. You can start a GoFundMe, spread it on social media, or do like a wiffle ball tournament. We want to make sure that we don't forget the importance of this month. It breast cancer affects so many families in the world, not just America, and we want to make sure that our prayers are with those families, and our thoughts, and any way we can help out is the best thing we can do. So we ask for tomorrow, just wear something pink, send us a picture through to our Instagram, and we'll put it out there. That's all we ask. And Dom, you can start the podcast.
That's right, Anthony. You hit the nail right on the head. Go to the description below. There's going to be some places where you can donate to support breast cancer. You don't even have to donate. Just, get some research, find out what's going on. And we just want to spread positivity, trying to help out everyone we can. Even, we're very small right now, but trying to build a strong message. And let's hop right into sports. I'm your host, Dominic. Of course, I mentioned already, I'm joined by the Price brothers, Daniel and Anthony. And Daniel, our soccer guy, Champions League football returned this week. We had some pretty big games on Tuesday and Wednesday. Why don't you go ahead and give us some games that you want to break down?
There are definitely some interesting games on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm gonna talk about 3 games I think were probably the most important, maybe most shocking of the weekend. So the first one I want to talk about is Lazio defeating Borussia Dortmund 3-1. This is Lazio's first Champions League win in 12 years. So this is pretty big for the supporters of the club and just the club in general, the players, top to bottom. It's really good for them. Uh, Head man Ciro Immobile scores a goal, and Lazio just they competed. They won the game. It's very good for them. Dortmund's favorite in the group, so it's good to see, especially if you're a Lazio supporter, that they're competing with the others, and maybe they can make it to the knockout round. Um, so another game, pretty shocking result, I would say, would be United's defeat of PSG at the Parc des Princes. Um, PSG just did not look good at all in this game. Aaron Wan-Bissaka had Mbappe in his pocket the whole game. Mbappe had to switch sides just to get away from him. Uh, so like I said, the scoreline finished 2-1. Bruno scored a penalty like he always does. But what's interesting about it is that during his first attempt of it, Navas actually saved it, but he was off his line, so he had to retake it. So Bruno's not going to miss 2 penalties in a row, so he put it away. PSG equalized with an own goal from Anthony Martial, and now United officially have the most own goals in Champions League history, which is a pretty interesting stat. Um, and then a late winner from Marcus Rashford in the 87th minute um, won them the game. A great pass from Paul Pogba, and then Rashford put it away. And this is a really good side. This is a really good sign, sorry, for United fans, because there was not a lot of good feeling after this summer. Just 2 weeks ago, they got absolutely thrashed by Tottenham 6-1 at home. But then they come back last weekend. They beat Newcastle 4-1, and then they beat PSG 2-1 in the Champions League. So this is a very strong start for them in what I would say would be the group of death. And then the final game I want to talk about, uh, Shakhtar Donetsk defeat Real Madrid 3-2. Just a shocker of a result, if I'm being honest. I mean, um, Madrid are without Sergio Ramos, which is, of course, big for them. But I mean, still, you would expect a team of Real Madrid's stature and quality to defeat Shakhtar Donetsk. Um, so Shakhtar went up 3-0 in the first half, and then Madrid started to come back. Modric got a quite a nice goal, and then Vinicius also scored a goal. But yeah, I mean, just a terrible result from Real Madrid, and then um, I mean, this weekend's El Clasico too, so this doesn't really bode well for them. So those were the games on Tuesday and Wednesday that I thought were most interesting.
Yeah, and you look at that the Real Madrid Shakhtar game, and Real Madrid really made that second half theirs. They owned all of it, and then really late towards the end of the game, they actually got a third goal, and then it was ruled offsides, so they called it back, and they ended up losing the game. And Dan, I go back in your article, you say that Real Madrid aren't going to make it out of this group, and they're not off to a hot start.
Mm-mm.
They dropped points already, and then Gladbach and Inter both have 1 point after a draw today. So they've got to bounce back quickly. You mentioned they had no Ramos. They had no Benzema either. So that's their
Yeah.
main striker not playing. So they gotta figure some things out. I feel like, this is always a team that's we look at Champions League and we always think Real Madrid, especially most recently because they went 3 years in a row winning it, and then Ronaldo left and the production in Champions League kind of just fell off. So I think they've got to bounce back and they've got to figure some other things out. Their defense needs help. You can't be allowing 3 goals against Shakhtar.
Varane just has not looked like himself as of
No,
late.
not at all. I
Just
feel like Juve have similar problems. Like whenever Chiellini leaves a game or he gets hurt, it happened last
Mhm.
year when he got his injury that made him miss most of the season. The first game they played against Napoli after he went down, they gave up 3 goals in about 25 minutes. So you can't be doing that. You got to find a good enough replacement to help the defense and make sure you're not giving up all those goals. And same thing with their attack. I mean, Benzema, he's a pretty good striker, but you've got a lot of other weapons on that team too that you got to use. So I again, like 2 goals against Shakhtar, it's okay, but like I feel like they should be getting more.
Mhm.
And then another a game I wanted to bring up was just Bayern absolutely thrashing Atletico. I mean, 4-0, they dominated the entire game. I mean, Oblak, he had some pretty good saves too. He kept them. It could have been a lot uglier of a scoreline if it wasn't for Oblak, but they were firing on all cylinders today. Bayern were. It just looked like there was no let up for them. They scored 1 goal and they're like, okay, we need a second goal. And then they scored a second goal and they're like, okay, we got to get a third goal. And they're like, we should get a fourth goal anyway just to be safe. When in reality they didn't need their last 3 goals. They still would have won the game.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it was a great like statement victory by
oh,
them at the
definitely.
beginning of the season. Once again, like, we're still the favorites. We don't care. This is Atletico Madrid. This isn't like a minnow side. This is Atletico Madrid. They're very successful in Europe every single season, and just Bayern just wants to just look. And Nabry didn't play, Sane didn't play, Alphonso Davies didn't play, but still, did not matter.
Yep.
Yeah,
Shout
Joey
out to
So
the
scored an
Bayern
absolute rocket.
defense too.
Bayern's defense, yeah, they played
Mhm.
pretty good against a fairly decent Atletico Madrid attack
Yeah, with
with
Suarez and
Luis Suarez and
Felix.
Joao Felix. So they looked pretty good. And just another team I want to highlight, Serie A team, Atalanta. They scored 4 today. They're looking like the Atalanta of old again after a tough outing against Napoli on the weekend. So it's good to see them, firing, getting all the goals again like they always do. And Liverpool also beat Ajax 1-0. In a game that was a lot closer
Just
than
scraped
I
it out.
expected it to be. They
Hmm.
scored. It was a goal off of an own goal in the
Hmm.
first half. So I think Liverpool, they should be fine, especially in their group. They should be fine. They should make it
Hmm.
out. But
They're gonna miss Van Dyke.
they're
A
most
lot.
definitely going to miss Van Dijk. Yeah, if he's out
Fabinho to
for an
play center
extended period
back.
of time, that's going to be a very big loss for them. As you mentioned earlier, Inter and Mönchengladbach, they drew 2-2. Some other results: Juve beat Dynamo Kiev 2-0 without Ronaldo. Murata had a brace, 2 goals. And Barcelona absolutely thrashed the other team in the group, who none of us know how to pronounce. They beat them 5-1.
They're from Hungary, just
They
so
are
that
from
if
Hungary.
anybody
We did
missed.
do that
Yeah.
research, but we don't know how to say the name. Piqué gets sent off with a red card too, so he's going to miss the clash against Juventus next week, which could be a decent loss for them. But I feel like they should probably be okay. Chelsea and Sevilla, they drew 0-0, and I think that's all the big results from Champions League action. Dan, did you want to add anything to that?
I guess that the draw between Mönchengladbach and Inter, I feel like that's a very good start for Mönchengladbach, who I in my article said that would get through over Madrid, just to show that they can compete. And I guess in the group with United and PSG, Leipzig got a 2-0 victory over Başakşehir, so that's a very good start for them. And French side, Stade Rennes scored their first ever Champions League goal. So they did draw the game, but congrats to them, first ever Champions League goal.
It's the small things. It's the small things that matter.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Gotta
So what
start
about
somewhere.
domestic leagues this week? What are we looking at in the Premier League, Serie A?
Yeah. So there are three. There are a bunch of good games this weekend, but there are three that I feel like are worth mentioning. So on Saturday, United played Chelsea at Old Trafford, and yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty big clash against two top English sides. United, like we just discussed, had a really good result. Have had two really good results in a row. Where Chelsea, um, they blew the lead to Southampton last weekend and ended up drawing, or no, they came back, I believe, but still 3-3 draw with Southampton is not a very good result for them. And then they have a scoreless draw with Sevilla, so it'll really be interesting to see two managers that are kind of on a little bit of a hot seat. I mean, there's a lot of questions regarding Lampard and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, so it'll be definitely very interesting to see how how they line up against each other, especially after having a game midweek, which they usually don't have. And then also in the Premier League, Leicester are playing Arsenal at the Emirates. Those two teams are currently fourth and fifth, equal on points. So Leicester haven't looked as great. They started off red hot. They beat City 5-2, but they lost the last 2 weeks. So we're gonna have to see if they can bounce back. Arsenal lost to City last weekend, so two teams are still towards the top of the table and are kind of competing for Europa League football and Champions League football, for being honest, because you want to do that instead. We're gonna have to see which team can bounce back. I mean, hopefully it doesn't end in like a draw or something, but we'll see. And then of course the big game this weekend, we have El Clasico, Barcelona versus Real Madrid. As we just said, Real Madrid had a terrible result um, during midweek, and Barcelona thrashed their opponent. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. Personally, for me, I think that Barcelona is gonna get this one, and I guess kind of a hot prediction I have during the game kind of segues into our new segment. Dom, if you want to mention that really quickly before I give my prediction.
Yeah. On our weekend installment of the podcast, we did our performer of the weekend, and to sort of move into midweek predictions, we're going to make a prediction for the weekend and what we think can happen. And we'll make sure to discuss it on the weekend installment of our podcast this week as well. So go ahead, Dan, with your prediction.
Yeah, so in this El Clasico game, I think that 17-year-old winger Ansu Fati will score a hat trick. Um, yeah, so Madrid's defense has not been good as of late. They shipped 3 to Shakhtar, and just when they have Messi and Fati and Griezmann if he plays, all going at them, I think they'll be overwhelmed. Um, Fati in just 231 minutes of league play has 3 goals and 1 assist, and then in their Champions League fixture, he had a goal and an assist. So He's just on fire as of late. I mean, we saw it towards the end of last season, but especially the start of this season, he's Europe's hot new prospect, and I think um, if he doesn't score a hat trick, I feel like he'll at least get like a brace or maybe 2 goals and an assist. I just feel like he's gonna have a really good game over the weekend.
That's one of the hottest takes I've probably ever heard in my life. But that's why we're here. We're here to make predictions. We're here to surprise you. Anthony, why don't we go with your prediction next?
Well, my prediction, I do agree. I think Barcelona with Dan is going to destroy Real Madrid in El Clasico. I agree there. But my prediction is going to be unranked Pitt upsetting number 3 Notre Dame in college football. Just Notre Dame, I don't think highly of them. They're a good team, but they're not number 3 ranked. So I think with George Pickett at quarterback for University of Pitt, I think he's going to lead in the victory.
Very interesting, and another very hot take along with Dan. Mine is definitely not as hot, but it's still a decent prediction. I think the Arizona Cardinals end up taking the L away from the Seahawks this Sunday in a game that's probably going to be really fun to watch. A very good offensive battle between two very good offenses. So I'm going to take the Cardinals in that game. And
So good defenses.
yes, again. So like let's move into NFL now. We recapped the games from Sunday, and we talked about the Monday game. So let's talk about the Monday games now. The Chiefs and the Bills. We saw a little bit more of an offensive shootout between the two teams, or at least we thought we would see an offensive shootout. It was more so of a one-sided affair. The Chiefs really kind of stomped on the Bills a little bit. They didn't absolutely murder them, but it was a game that the Chiefs dominated in. The final score 26-17. Patrick Mahomes throws for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has another really very good game, over 160 yards. Dan, what did you take away from this game? What do you think of the Chiefs, and do you think any differently of the Bills now?
I don't think any differently of the Bills. I mean, I just think they came up against a better opponent. Like we kind of discussed in the last podcast, both these teams were looking for a win after pretty bad. Well, not bad losses, but a loss is a loss. So yeah, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes didn't really have to do much. I think he was like 21 for 26, which is insanely efficient. But it's not like he had to put up 4 touchdowns and 30 to 50 yards. They just controlled the game, like you mentioned. Edwards-Helaire over 160 yards. They were just able to control the clock, and Josh Allen didn't play the greatest, and they couldn't really run the ball. So the Chiefs, got to give it up to Steve Spagnuolo just for the great defensive performance.
And what about you, Anthony?
I think like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are just so smart. Like they knew it was like a rainy, wet game in Buffalo, and they knew that Mahomes, if they needed him to throw the ball, he would. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 26 carries for 161 yards, was just on fire. The Bills' defense just couldn't stop the run game, and that's why they won. The Chiefs won. The Bills just their defense. For the past couple of years, have been a top defense. This year, they honestly have been looking a little shaky, so they have some things they got to fix up. But just the Chiefs with Mahomes, Bell going to be playing next week, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire just looks unstoppable.
Yeah, I agree. It was good to see the Chiefs bounce back. It was a good win, very strong win against a good defense in Buffalo. As Anthony just mentioned, that defense has been good for a while now. And now, it seems like they have an offense to finally back it up and make a good team. So that's a good win for the Chiefs to have. And I think, a lot of people are going to look at that win and be like, okay, maybe that Raiders game was just, not their week. So Chiefs win in dominant fashion, and the Arizona Cardinals won in very dominant fashion as well.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Cowboys 38-10. Cowboys got a garbage time touchdown, which made it 38-10. But that game was just absolutely dominated. Kenyon Drake had a very good game. He had over 160 yards as well. He had 2 touchdowns. Christian Kirk also had 2 catches for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. Andy Dalton had a good game. Granted, he did throw the ball 54 times. So, but then again, Zeke also fumbled a couple of times as well. So the Cowboys' offense was just very lackluster. And Dan, what did you think of the Cardinals? Do you think this was a fluke game, or do you think we see more from them like this?
Um, I think they're very capable of this. I mean, the Cowboys offense just did not play very well. Of course, without Dak Prescott now, Zeke putting the ball on the ground twice in the game doesn't really help. And it's like, yes, Kyler Murray and the offense played very well, but they're also against. I think the Cowboys are on pace to be the worst defense in NFL history. Um, just yeah, I mean they're letting up 30 plus points to everybody, so I'm not really surprised that the Cardinals scored 38. But I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from the Cardinals. They played a good game. They were able to run the ball. Kenyon Drake finally had a breakout game, which fantasy owners are really happy about. Um, so yeah, I mean, good win for the Cardinals. Win's a win, but Cowboys, I don't think that they will look this bad again because they were dominated in this game. You'd figure maybe give Dalton the benefit of the doubt, kind of like fitting into the team, and Zeke's not going to fumble twice a game. You know what I mean? So yeah, I guess good win for the Cardinals. Cowboys are going to have to regroup. Still could very well win the division. So yeah, that's what I think about that game.
Yeah, I think the game was more so of a fluke game from the Cowboys, honestly. I think I look at that team and like they should be better because you look at the offensive weapons, Ezekiel Elliott, CD Lamb, Michael Gallup, Mari Cooper, and they got, a few average tight ends. I'm not gonna say they're amazing, Dalton Schultz, and I believe Blake Jarwin's still in IR. I'm not sure for how long. But decent tight ends, and the O line is, beaten and battered up, but it's still decent. And I just feel like they should be doing better. I feel like, like you said, Dan, Zeke's not going to fumble multiple times in a game, most likely again for the rest of the season. And I don't know. I feel like you should just keep giving him the ball. They say feed Zeke, feed Zeke. You should feed Zeke, honestly, because
You're
Andy
paying
Dalton,
them that much
he
too.
shouldn't be throwing the ball 54 times a game. Okay? I don't care who you are. Dak shouldn't be throwing the ball 54 times a game. If Tony Romo is still the quarterback of this team, he should be throwing the ball 54 times a game. No one should be throwing the ball 54 times a game. That's too many times to be throwing the ball. So I think running the ball is more important for them, and they most definitely need to fix their defense. I feel like, if they were going to lose this game, they should have lost this game like 24-10. They shouldn't have lost by 30. They shouldn't have lost by 28 points. They shouldn't have given up 38. I feel like, I feel like we all said that, this was Dallas's division to lose. But since Dak Prescott went down, it's just not looking like that anymore. But it still very well could be the division to lose, depending on, the Eagles have a very easy stretch of games coming up. They play the Giants on Thursday night, and then they play the Cowboys next week on Sunday night, and then they play the Giants again, and then play the Browns. I feel like that's an easy stretch of games where the Eagles could easily be at 5-4-1 come December. So Dallas has really got to step it up, or else it's weird to say because we're looking at the NFC East, but they're going to be left in the dust.
I got a plan for the Cowboys. So as you've been hearing, there's all this problems and drama with Mike McCarthy and some players. Just the whole coaching staff's a mess. And if the coaching staff's a mess, the players are a mess too because they have like bad system plays that they're not putting in effort because they might not agree. So I think especially with Dak going down, they should take this year as a 1 year rebuild. Try to get a nice draft pick for a nice prospect next year. They still compete, but they rebuild. They work on stuff. Michael Gallup is on his 3rd year out of his 4-year contract, and after next year, he's gonna want money. The Cowboys wide receiver offense have great wide receivers. They have Zeke in the back, so they have weapons that they have for the future. I think they should trade Michael Gallup because he's going to want money the Cowboys aren't going to afford it because they're going to have to pay Dak. If they trade Gallup, they can get picks, they can get defensive prospects because CD Lamb will take the wide receiver 2 spot, and he just, he has such a high projection of what he can be. And then Cedric Wilson isn't a bad wide receiver for a number 3 spot. So I think they should trade Gallup, take this year as a rebuild year, stay competitive and fix their coaching staff, because if the coaching's not working, neither will the players.
Dan, how do you feel about this 1 year rebuild for the Cowboys that Anthony's proposing?
Um, I mean, I feel like it certainly kind of like makes sense, but it's gonna be very hard to convince Cowboys fans, the players, Jerry Jones. Like it's gonna be harder to say like, oh, let's just stink this year because, everyone's gonna expect us to stink because Dak is out when they could still very easily win the division. And I feel like perhaps maybe smarter Cowboys fans would be like, oh yeah, maybe maybe let's miss the playoffs. But the majority of them, especially those who actually aren't Dallas fans but are more like
I
bandwagon
don't
Dallas
I
fans,
don't mean
they're
stink.
gonna want to
That's not
make
what I
the
mean.
playoffs.
By having a rebuild, like when the Patriots first lost Brady, everyone was saying we're going to take this year with Stidham before they signed Cam, or when Cam did sign, we're going to take this year as a year we just show effort. We're going to compete in every game. We win, we win. So that's what they're going to do with Andy Dalton. They're going to compete. They're going to show effort, and if they win, they win. If they lose, they lose. But as a fan, I know they're going to just compete 100%. But if they don't make it to the playoffs, especially in the NFC East, I know anyone can make it. It's the worst division in football, but you make the playoffs with a 6-10 record, you know, you still will get a good pick, and then you make the playoffs and have a potential run. But I think they need a rebuild just for 1 year. How you said it's one of the worst defenses ever could
It's
possibly be.
projected to be the worst
Yeah.
defense in NFL history.
So just rebuild. 1 year thing. And I think Jerry Jones, I know he's the GM and the owner, but just he's got to not think of win now, because the Cowboys are the most covered team in America, and they're being covered so much on how they stink this year, how they're not good, how they have problems. So why do they want to be covered? As if I'm Jerry Jones, I don't want to be covered as a bad team. So if he says a plan like that, we're going to take this year as a rebuild, you're looking for next year with that coming back and whatever you get from trades, free agency, and the draft.
So, all right, so they could do really bad. They finish the year 4-12, and they've got a top 10 pick in the draft. Who are they taking with that pick?
Defense, Mekhi Parsons from Penn State comes to mind.
They've already got pretty decent linebackers. You think they should get another one?
Or they could get in the secondary too. Like, I think they're going to take the best player available.
They need safeties pretty bad,
Yep. So
I would say. I mean, they're not. It's weird to think that losing Robert Quinn to Chicago would have been such a big loss for them, but I think he led the team in sacks last year, even though DeMarcus Lawrence was there. So, I guess maybe there are some names on paper, and I guess their linebacking core would probably be considered the best part about their defense. But
they can
if
take.
there's a guy, just best player available on the defensive side, kind of regardless of position, I just think you got to take it.
Or how you said secondary, after drafting Trevion Diggs from Alabama last year, Patrick Surtain, he's a cornerback, play a little bit of safety. They can take him, upgrade that defense.
Okay, interesting. All right, so that is week 6 wrapped up. Those were the Monday games we recapped. We recapped the Sunday games on episode 3. Go check that out if you'd like. So let's move on into week 7. Week 7 kicks off Thursday night. Eagles play the Giants in a game that could determine who ends up being first place in the NFC East, with the 1-5 Giants playing the 1-4-1 Eagles. 8 o'clock Thursday night. How do you guys see this game playing out?
I mean, I have to say the Eagles. I mean, I don't want to show any bias. We are Eagles fans, but I just don't. The Giants barely won that game against the Washington football team, and I believe Lane Johnson and Deshaun Jackson are coming back
Both
to the
active, yep.
Eagles. Yep. So that's going to be, especially Lane Johnson, even more so than Deshaun, I think, is just going to be huge because the Eagles have had so many injuries, and Carson Wentz is really, I mean, he's definitely had some shaky games, but he's just been out there alone. I mean, Travis Fulgham is his new number one wide receiver who has been playing well. But I just don't, the Giants are just, they're just not good, are they? So I don't really see them getting this win.
Anthony?
I have the Eagles winning. The I know Ertz is out. They don't have Goddard, and with Johnson coming back and Jackson is going to be huge for them. Look for Richard Rodgers. Wentz. You saw in the past couple of games, Wentz and him have a little connection. I think this week in practice they probably built on it a lot. You know how Wentz loves his tight ends. Um, but I think this is a must-win game for the Eagles and Carson Wentz. If he wins this game, and like you said earlier, Dom, they have a couple easy games on the way. I think this will turn the Eagles season around and make that playoff spot.
Yeah, that was I'm gonna jump right to this real quick and we'll get to the rest of them later. But one of the questions we got on our Instagram for questions for this podcast were could this game for the Eagles turn around not only Carson Wentz's season, but the Eagles season? I'll open it to anyone.
Yes. I just said how I felt this game would affect Dan.
Yeah, I mean, Carson Wentz has really just been just trying just to do anything with kind of out there, kind of the same narrative as last year. But I feel like this team, especially the offensive line, has been much more beat up than last year. I mean, we already knew we weren't going to have Brandon Brooks coming into the season, but just, Jason Peters going down, Andre Dillard go down, Sayamalu. Who would have knew we would miss Sayamalu so much? And then, of course, Johnson going down, and now he's back. Um, I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, Miles Sanders is going to play on Thursday. So hopefully, Boston Scott can be an adequate replacement. He played some good games against the Giants last year, if you remember watching them, prime time as well. So maybe we get a little deja vu. But I do think a win here, a good performance by Carson Wentz, and just the team overall. I mean, the defense is not. They very well may have been worse than the offense during the season so far. So hopefully a good team win and a string of easy games could just build the confidence up for the team in general so they can turn the season around in a very winnable NFC East.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think if the Eagles can get a strong performance out of this game, I think if they can win by at least maybe like 10, 15 points, something like that, it's a good confidence builder for the team to have, especially, they'll get the extra days off and then they'll go into a really big game next Sunday night against Dallas that'll still be at home. So I think if, a big win, a big performance by everyone, if everyone steps up, Dan, like you said, if Boston Scott could have a huge game. Anthony said Richard Rodgers could go off. I've been seeing it too. Richard Rodgers has been doing pretty good these past couple of weeks, especially with him being the backup tight end, the 12 personnel. So I don't know how much of that will run with Ertz out now, but look for him to have a
I
pretty
think
decent
Perkins
game.
is still out, right? Joshua Perkins.
I think so. I think
Yeah. He's on
Kroom is
IR.
now the backup tight end
Yeah,
who
so
caught
Rodgers and
one of the 2
Kroom.
points one of the 2-point conversions against the Ravens.
Mhm.
And quick interesting note on this game with Miles Sanders out and of course Saquon Barkley out for the Giants. The leading rusher for both teams is Daniel Jones with 204 yards. So he is
Wow.
the biggest rushing threat that the Giants have. So I don't know if the Eagles D-line will be able to contain it. It should be very tough. But, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But in a more serious note, I think the Eagles do win this game. It would actually be their first home win of the season, believe it or not. With 2 losses to
And a tie.
the Rams and the Ravens, and then of course the tie against the Bengals. This would be their first home win. And again, it'd be a very good win for them. 2-4-1 is not the prettiest record, but if the Cowboys lose again this weekend, it puts them in first place. All right, so let's move on. Let's look at some other games. We've got I would say a decent matchup in the AFC North. The Browns play the Bengals. Bengals, their record doesn't show, but they've been playing pretty good. They had a pretty good game against the Colts last week. And of course, Joe Burrow has been playing insanely well. And that Bengals offense has just been stepping it up a lot recently. Joe Mixon's been playing very good. T. Higgins has been stepping up very nicely. Tyler Boyd obviously looked good, and AJ Green finally had a really good game. So, and then there's the Browns who struggled last weekend, but they've been having, for the most part, a very good season. Baker Mayfield does not feel that way. He says 4-2. He's never felt like 0-6 before. So I guess if that's how you feel, Baker, I guess it's a good thing you're not on the Jets. Any predictions for that game? Anything you guys want to say about that game?
Well, the last time they played, it was on Thursday Night Football. It was a really good game, very entertaining to watch. The Bengals, I think, maybe got a garbage time touchdown to kind of make it a little bit closer, but just the way that they've been playing lately, I think the Bengals are due for a win. Hopefully, the defense can contain Cleveland offense, especially with Nick Chubb still not in, even though Kareem Hunt's a more than adequate replacement. I think that could be a difference maker this game, and I think Joe Burrow is going to have another good game, and the Bengals are going to get a win.
You better hope not, Dan. I'm playing him in fantasy this week against you.
Oh, maybe not that good of a game, but we'll see.
Anthony, what about you?
I'm taking the Bengals. I like Joe Burrow, and the offense is, he has Higgins has been going off. Boyd and Burrow had a connection since week 1. AJ Green finally got in, and Mixon is finally doing what we all expect him to do. The offense is getting together. It's being closer and closer each game to what their goal is, to be high powering. The defense needs a little work, but I have the Bengals winning. I'm not high on the Browns. As if you listened to last podcast, I don't think the Browns are good at all. Baker Mayfield, I'm not a fan. I think the Browns need a new quarterback, but we don't have to get into that now. But I picked the Bengals to win this game.
Okay, so just real quick, the line for that game: Cleveland -3. Anyone taking it? Good. No, Anthony.
Well, if we all think the Bengals.
I mean that should be self-explanatory.
Yeah.
And the over/under 50.5.
I'll go over.
Yeah, I'll go over too.
I would go over as well. All right. Next game, we'll just touch upon it real quick. I don't need you to go in depth. Do the Jets get their first win of the weekend against the Bills?
No.
Fair enough. Buffalo favored by 13. We taking that one?
Yes.
I don't know. I think I could see them winning by like 10 or something. I don't know about.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Two big games. Let's hop into the first one. NFC West showdown. Seahawks for the Cardinals. Obviously, as I stated earlier, I'm taking the Cardinals in this game. I just think it's going to be an interesting game. They're going to be at home. I'm not sure if Arizona has fans yet in their stadium, but obviously, still playing at home is a different thing. Seattle's got to travel again. Poor Seattle. They're always traveling an absurd amount of miles to get to wherever they got to go, even their divisional games. But I think the Cardinals win this game. I like Kyler Murray, and if Kenyon Drake can have another very big game, that'll help him a lot. And then it's just this connection he's got with DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray has. It's insane. It's just, at this point, he's just like, yeah, I can just throw it up and DeAndre's down there somewhere. And it's true. I mean, like, seeing that Monday night game and then last week when they played the Jets, it's just like, throw it up. He's down there somewhere. So I like the Cardinals to win this game. The Seahawks have been a little shaky. They looked rough in the game against the Vikings, and they looked a little bit rough in a game against the Dolphins as well. So I think, the Seahawks will lose this game, but they'll bounce back and they'll continue to be one of the top teams of the NFC.
I think I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I think Russell Wilson gets it done. I think it will be a close game. I think it should be a high scoring game, but I just think if it comes down to it, a last possession for the quarter, each quarterback gets possession. I'm taking Russell Wilson to drive down and throw a 30-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf because that's what he seems to do every game now, even though I am playing against him in fantasy. But
Yes, you are.
We'll see.
I'm gonna take the Seahawks, but it's gonna be like a high scoring game, but it's gonna be by a field goal or a couple points. The the key for the Cardinals to win here is Kenyon Drake. Like Dom said, he has to have a great performance like he did last week. The Seahawks secondary is stronger than the front. So with Jamal Adams, they're going to have him a little bit more focused on Hopkins. And by how Murray can run and Kenyon Drake, that front is going to be tired. They're going to have to be moving all around. So if the run game for the Cardinals is working, I would think the Cardinals will win. But if Drake doesn't perform, I have the Seahawks winning.
Okay, and let's bounce into another question we received from Instagram. One of the questions was, and we'll use this to segue into the next game I want to talk about. Are Kenyon Drake and Derrick Henry the real deal, or was the last game just one lucky game? And I'll open it up to everyone, whoever wants to take it first.
I don't know who was really questioning if Derrick Henry was real deal. I feel like we know he's a real deal. He's been the real deal. But Kenyon Drake, I'm still, he's definitely a talented running back, but I'm still not like sold that this game against the worst defense in the league and possibly of all time is just some like gonna resurrect his season. I mean, it's definitely gonna give him confidence, which he needs. But I just feel like also with the game scripting that's gonna happen, it's gonna be like back and forth, high scoring. I could see Seattle like getting out up to a maybe like 2 touchdown lead, and then Cardinals have to crawl back. Then we're gonna see a lot of DeAndre Hopkins. We're not gonna see a lot of Kenyon Drake. So I think Kenyon Drake is a solid running back, but I don't think he's a real deal, especially with like, you know, sometimes we'll just hand the ball to Kenyon Drake 8 times, just eating into or no, sorry, Chase Edmonds. That's what I meant. Chase Edmonds like 8 times, just eating into Drake's carries. So yeah, I do not think that Kenyon Drake is a real deal.
I would agree. Well, whoever asked if Derrick Henry's not real, get an education because he's the real deal. Um, just rushing best running back last year. Well, he won the what's it called, the rushing title last year. This year, he looks awesome. You saw what he did to Josh Norman last week. Just Derrick Henry is the real deal. Just look at the stats, look at how he's leading the Titans. And then for Kenyon Drake, I'm not sold on him. I think that he has some good games. He's like a streak player. He'll have a couple good games, and then once he has a bad game, he'll fall into a slump. So that's what I think about Kenyon Drake. They're both Alabama running backs, which is, roll tide. But I'm not sold on Kenyon Drake. Not yet.
Okay, I'm not gonna call out the person who asked that question because I would never call one of our viewers, or tell them to get an education. That's very rude, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the question, viewer. We appreciate you. We appreciate your question.
He had one of the best educations in the Northeast Philadelphia.
Yep. So thank you for the question. We appreciate it. I'm gonna say I'm gonna agree with most of these guys. Derrick Henry is 1,000% the real deal. And I think the thing about Kenyon Drake is just he's a good running back. I'm not going to deny that, but he, inconsistent, I would say. 1 week he'll put up monster numbers, and the next week he'll have 7 carries for 15 yards. So, I would say like he's not a franchise running back, but he's also not like some bottom of the barrel type of guy. So, for short answer, Derrick Henry is very good. Kenyon Drake is pretty good, but I think last week may have just been one case of a lucky game. I'm not gonna say it was a lucky game because it's not just luck running for over 160 yards in the NFL. So yeah, you get the point. Kenyon Drake, inconsistent. Be more consistent, and you'll be as good as Derrick Henry maybe. All right, so let's use that. We just talked about Derrick Henry. Let's talk about the battle of the unbeatens this weekend. The Steelers are going to play the Titans in a game that was originally supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago, but was moved around because of COVID scheduling. Because Tennessee had all the COVID problems, and they had to change bye weeks, flip schedules. So the teams are going to finally meet up. It's going to take place. It's going to be in Nashville. Who keeps their O after this weekend, guys?
It's definitely going to be a good battle. There's a reason that both these two teams are still undefeated. They're very good. But for me, I think I'm gonna have to go with Tennessee. I just think, especially because Ryan Tannehill has been playing well, they're not as one-dimensional as they were last season. So they can attack you in the air and the ground. Uh, I mean, Steelers' defense is definitely very formidable, but I just have a feeling about Tennessee winning this game at home.
Oh, I have to disagree. I'm going with the Steelers. I just think that one Ben Roethlisberger looks great off his not playing last year. Um, James Conner has been playing very well, and Claypool last week did good as well as the week before. I just think the offense is doing good, and the defense I think is the best in the league. You have Fitzpatrick in the secondary, Bush at the linebacker, Watt up front with Bud Dupree. Just I think that this defense is something special. I have the Steelers winning. I think it's going to be a not a high scoring game, but kind of like in between where it's low and high. I think it's going to be a close game, but I have the Steelers winning.
Okay, I think I'm going to side with Dan on this one. I think Tennessee's got all the tools necessary. Ryan Tannehill, some would say he's putting up an MVP type of season so far, and it's hard to disagree with it. But just looking at the other contenders, I wouldn't necessarily put him in the conversation for an MVP. But he's got great numbers so far on the season. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards. He got 13 touchdowns so far, and of course, Derrick Henry's having a monster season already. So I just think that Anthony's saying that the Steelers have one of the best defenses in the NFL. I'm not going to say he's wrong, but I'm going to say they're going to struggle against the way Ryan Tannehill's been playing and the way Derrick Henry's also been playing. I don't know if they'll be able to stop either of them. I mean, I look back at that Eagles game and, that Eagles offense, which has been struggling for most part of the season, put up, I believe, what was it, 20-some points against them.
29 points.
29
It took
points.
a 4-touchdown performance by Chase Claypool to
Yeah.
win.
So, Travis Fulgham, granted, he's the best wide receiver in the league right now, put up monster numbers against them. I don't know if they're going to be able to contain like A.J. Brown or, Jonnu Smith might have a good game at tight end.
He's questionable, but I think he'll play.
I think he's supposed to play. So, and if he does play, I think he'll have a pretty decent game. And of
Firsker
course,
had a really good game last week, the backup tight end when
yeah,
Jonnu Smith went out.
he could have a big game too if Jonnu
and a
Smith doesn't
touchdown.
play. So, and then of course Derrick Henry, he'll probably put up his Derrick Henry numbers again. I don't know if he'll put up those crazy good numbers he had against the Texans, but he'll probably get his 80 yards, maybe 100 yards and a touchdown. So I'm gonna have to go with the Titans. I think they're gonna be the last of the remaining unbeatens in the AFC for now. Well, there's no other teams, but they'll keep their O up until week 8, I believe. Quick note: Sunday night game, Buccaneers Raiders. Anyone care to make a pick on that?
I have the Buccaneers. I think it's going to, besides the Steelers Titans, I think that is going to be probably the second best game to watch. The Buccaneers embarrassing Aaron Rodgers and the Packers last week. If they play like that, they are the best team in the league. There's no doubt. If their run game and passing game is that efficient and that go and they play with ease. They played with ease last week. There's no competition, no hard effort against them. I think the Bucks will win, but the Raiders coming off a bye week, the week before that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a nice high scoring game. The Raiders have explosive offense, so the Buccaneers are going to be tested once again, but I have the Buccaneers winning that game.
I'll probably have to disagree. I think Josh Jacobs is going to run all over the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers definitely do have a good defense, but I think it was on the first podcast or maybe the second we discussed how the loss of Vita Vea affects their run defense. So I just see Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs having a good game. Josh Jacobs is going to wear them down, and then Derek Carr is going to throw like a 60-yard touchdown to Henry Ruggs for his one of two receptions of the game or something like that. Raiders, that win against the Chiefs, just it bodes well for me. I have a lot of confidence in them, and I think Gruden in prime time is going to put on a show for us.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Dan. I think my dad would be very proud of that. He's a big Gruden guy, so Dan, I think you better hope Josh Jacobs doesn't have a big game because again, you are going up against him in fantasy. So
Yeah,
I think the Raiders win this game. I think it'll probably be a close game. I imagine. I don't think no one's going to get blown out. I don't think
definitely
so.
close.
I think it's going to be a close game. I don't know if it'll be too high scoring either, but both teams probably crack 20. I'd say maybe one of them cracks 30, but I don't think it's going to be way too high scoring. Monday night game, 5-1 Bears play the 4-2 Rams. Who you guys liking in that game?
I think it's hard to bet against the Bears right now just because of how well their defense is playing, and Nick Foles just seems to do enough. Like the Bears are not blowing out opponents. It's not like that to show for their 5-1 record. And the Rams, I do think they're a good team. I think did we discuss it on last week's podcast? I think I saw them going to the playoffs, finishing second in the NFC West.
Yes.
But I just think that the Bears defense will be too much for them unless Darrell Henderson or one of the running backs from the Rams can, establish themselves in the game to kind of open it up for Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. So I'm gonna go with the Bears. They'll win by like a touchdown max. I think it'll be very low scoring too.
I'm gonna go with the Rams on this. I know both great defenses, and the Bears defense has been on fire recently. And I love Nick Foles. We're all from Philly. How do you not love him? But I just don't think that their offense will be enough to outplay the Rams offense. The Rams offense is very inconsistent. Like 1 week they'll be scoring very low. Next week they'll explode with like a 40-point game. So I think this week Goff is just gonna have a good game with Kupp and Woods involved, and I think the offense is gonna be flowing and playing nice, even though the Bears have a great defense. So I have the Rams.
I think me and Dan are on the same wavelength tonight because I'm going to go Bears as well. So I'm sorry, Anthony, it's just not your night. But I'm going to go Bears. The Rams struggled against the beat up 49ers defense last week. So I think, they should, or they will have hard times against, Khalil Mack and that amazing Bears defense. So, and I think, like Dan said, the Bears will do just enough to win the game. It'll probably be by a touchdown, maybe like 9 points or something like that. So I think it'll, they'll scrape out of that Monday night clash with a win, I'd say. I guess we'll touch upon two more things. The Dolphins are on a bye week this week, but when they return November 1st, play the Rams, Ryan Fitzpatrick will not be the starting quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa is going to come in, and he's going to take over the starting role. What do you guys think of this move taking out Fitzpatrick when the team is currently sitting in second place in the AFC East, and Fitzpatrick has been having a pretty good season so far?
Yeah, that's kind of what I don't get about it. Fitzpatrick has been playing very, very well. I mean, that demolishing of the 49ers 2 weeks ago was just great. And obviously, we all knew when they drafted Tua at 5 that he's the future of the franchise. He's going to be their starting quarterback. But I just don't know what kind of pushed him over the edge to say, "Oh yeah, let's just start him now." Like he got in at the end of the game last week, and he had like 2 passing attempts for 9 yards just to end the game. And there was actually a really cool picture of him at the end of the game. He sat on, I think it was like the 27-yard line, like wherever he got hurt for Alabama in the empty stadium, and kind of just took it in. So I wish the best for Tua Tagovailoa, and the Dolphins are quite a exciting team to watch. But I don't know that while things are going well, taking out the main reason that they're going well is too smart. So it's definitely a bold move by Brian Flores, and I guess we're just gonna have to see if it pays off.
I think that this was the plan from the beginning of the season by drafting Tua, that after the bye week, we're going to put Tua in. But I don't think anyone expected that the Dolphins would be 3-3, second in their division now, and Fitzmagic having such a good season so far. I don't think anyone really expected that. So I do feel bad for Fitzmagic. He did say that I've been benched a lot of times, but this was just one of the most heartbreaking times. Um, and the Dolphins, they're second in division, and with the NFL allowing 7 teams now make the playoffs, just in the AFC, they're ninth in the AFC right now, the whole conference, and 2 teams that are in front of them are the Browns and Colts, which honestly, I don't think they're good teams. I don't think they're a playoff team, and I think they have a easy start, but now the schedule is going to get harder, and they're going to fall. So you know, Tua, and plus you're putting Tua in his first start ever against the Rams defense and Aaron Donald. You couldn't wait a week and give him a little easier matchup. So maybe it could change, but I think it was just a plan all along they had, and they weren't expecting the season they already have so far. So I think, I wish Tua the best, but I think it was just their plan all along.
Yeah, I think I look at this situation and I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's like the Dolphins. Yeah, I don't think anyone expected them to, win the AFC this year or go to the Super Bowl and win that. But they're doing. I would say they're doing better than most people thought they were going to be doing at this point.
They're competing.
They're competing.
Right?
They're
When's
second in
last
the
time they
AFC East,
competed?
and I believe they're only one game behind the Bills right now, who also sit at 4-2. So I don't know. I'm not gonna say I like the move, but I'm not gonna say I dislike it either. Because like Dan said, obviously he's the franchise. He's gonna be the quarterback for the foreseeable future for the Dolphins. So, but I just don't see why at this point. I can understand if he was doing really bad, but Fitzpatrick was playing great. I just don't see why now you would bench him, and like even he said he felt like he felt like it was being fired from a job, and then the next day he had to sit on a Zoom call with the person that fired him, and then also with the person who took his job. And that's understandable, and it's just like I feel bad for the guys. Like Anthony said, he's been benched a lot of times in his career. For the most part of his career, he has been a backup. But this just like wasn't the time or the place to do it. I feel like, I'm not gonna say this was his team to run, but it was kind of feeling like that. It's like, he was a starting quarterback all last year, and he was doing really good this year. I mean, he did pretty good last year too, but I just don't see why they would do it now. I mean, Anthony's saying makes sense where, this was the plan all along. They were going to wait until after the bye week and then throw him in there. And apparently the Dolphins are absolutely in love with him. They say, he's worked on his accuracy so much, and his game IQ is very high. So, again, I'm not going to say I hate the move, but I'm not going to say I like it either. I think they should have stuck with Fitzpatrick for the time being. So I think that's all I have to say on that. And I guess the last thing we'll touch upon in the NFL, I think it was Roddy White said that if the Jets end up getting the first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence should seriously consider staying in college for an extra year. And I just let's get opinions on that real quick.
I mean, I definitely get where Roddy White's coming from. I mean, we've talked about it before. The Jets just kind of need to fire Adam Gase. I don't know how. I saw a meme. It was like they voted off Le'Veon Bell, but he wasn't the imposter. It's Adam Gase. Like he's still there. He's just killing the franchise. I mean, the team as a whole just isn't great. They traded their best player in Jamal Adams before the season, and I don't, I'm a Sam Darnold guy, but I feel like, obviously Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number one draft pick, whoever has it. He's uber talented, and I feel like a player like him could elevate the team just like that, kind of like how we're seeing with Joe Burrow, how he's just elevated that offense already, shortly into his NFL career. But, you know, if Trevor Lawrence goes to the Jets, how much different is it going to be than when Sam Darnold went to the Jets? If they keep everything the same, if they keep Adam Gase, so that's just I definitely get where Roddy White's coming from, and maybe a player like Lawrence will be up for the challenge because some guys are like that. They wanna make this the worst team into a contender. don't want to pull like an Eli or anything, but it's definitely interesting to think about.
Um, you know, first I posted an article. Check it out on the Clemson Tigers. You'll learn about Trevor Lawrence in that. But I I just one Darnold was a great prospect coming out, and I still think he's very talented. Just the Jets ruined him. The Jets, how the Bengals knew and the Dolphins and Chargers all knew that they were going to get a quarterback in last year's draft, Herbert, Tua, and Burrow. They prepared for him. They signed people on both sides of the ball. They showed him that we care, that you're here. We're going to try to get better players in for you to do it. But the Jets aren't doing anything. The Jets haven't done anything for Darnold. So, yes, Lawrence is a better prospect than Darnold. Lawrence is one of the top rated quarterbacks ever in history as a prospect. But I just, if Lawrence stays for his senior year, he has a potential chance. If they win this year, he would have his second title and then a second national championship. And if he stays again, he'll have another chance of winning a third. I don't think any quarterback has ever done that. So, he could just keep getting better. But I think the Jets are going to ruin him. I truly do. Even Adam Gase, if he's fired or not, even with the new coach, they're not showing him love. Like they did get Mekhi Becton in last year's draft to help Darnold out, but no Le'Veon Bell. They're thinking of trading Quentin Williams, their defensive front, who they drafted 2 years prior. I'm pretty sure. Just the Jets are just like they have no money too. The Jets are just a mess. A team that I would love to see Lawrence go to, just real quick, would be the Washington football team. I think it would be a great fit there. So the Washington football team are projected the second pick as of now, and I think you know the Jets do have a chance of beating the Dolphins in a couple of weeks, just depending how Tua starts. We don't know how it is, but I just think that if Lawrence goes to the Jets, I think they're going to ruin him.
Yeah, I have to agree with it. But at the same time, I feel like Trevor Lawrence kind of wants to secure that bag a little bit. It's like sure, staying in college to not go to a very bad team is a very good idea, but it's not like it's benefiting him at all to stay in college, honestly, because he's going to be the number one overall pick regardless if he's in this year's draft or next year's draft, unless something weird happens and some team who already has a quarterback ends up with the first overall pick. But I agree. I like what Dan said. I think Sam Darnold is the guy the Giants should look to build around, and they should keep him. He's a good quarterback. I feel like if you slotted him on a playoff team, that team would be just as good. So I like Sam Darnold. I don't think even if they did have the first overall pick, they shouldn't draft Lawrence, but they would anyway because that's what teams do. But I don't think it makes sense for Lawrence to stay in college another year. I think that big contract he gets for being the first overall pick is something that's a big eye opener. And then B, you hate to say it, you hate to even think about it, but there's a slight possibility he goes back to Clemson and he ends up getting hurt, and some knee problem or something even worse. Something happens and it absolutely ruins his draft stock, and no one wants to take him now because he's a big liability because of that injury. So I think both sides make sense. It makes sense for him to stay back in college, and then it makes also a lot of sense for him to go into the NFL. And Dan said, you never know. He could be up for that challenge of going to the Jets and trying to, stick around and be a good team. I'm not going to tell the guy what to do. I think it'd be smarter for him to stay in college. Like Anthony said, there's all that glory in going for a third national championship because it's looking like they're going to win it again this year. So if I were him, I would stay in college, maybe get, hope for, a somewhat better team to get to the first overall pick again next year. But for all we know, it could be the Jets for back-to-back years. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that, honestly.
Yeah, I guess really quick, you kind of touched upon it really. But I guess it's just his mindset. Like if they do win again this year, the national championship, if he goes, well, I want to I want to really etch my name into college football history. I want to get a third national championship. I want to, get a Heisman as well. So it's just going to be interesting to see if that is his mindset or if he just wants to go to the NFL, secure his bag, like you said, and just, start on his next chapter in his footballing career. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's all we can do at this point. All right, so we've answered 2 of the questions we received on our Instagram story so far. Let's cover the rest of them. First one we'll ask, I guess the first 2 we'll ask, basketball related. First one I'll ask is I guess I would say an easy question. Is Matisse Thybulle going to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year next season?
I don't think he's going to be in running of Defensive Player of the Year. I think he'll definitely be an all defensive team. He's very young. He's very talented at defense, and I think not Defensive Player of the Year, all NBA defensive team. I definitely see this year. I think he honestly could have been on the second team, but he didn't. But defensive team definitely. And then for the next question, I know it was who could the Rockets take as
All
the
right,
head coach?
slow down, Anthony. Let's let everyone else answer. Let's answer the first question first. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I'm gonna have to say no. I mean, and also if you look at like the past, the Defense Player of the Years for the past 7 or so years, it's been like Kawhi Leonard, Draymond Green, Rudy Gobert, Giannis. I mean, those guys are also they're like stars. You know what I mean? So I don't. Have we really considered someone who's just like purely a lockdown fender and Defensive Player of the Year? I feel like you need a bit of other pedigree to go along with it that Matisse Thybulle just doesn't have at this point. And I think he could eventually get there. And like Anthony said, I feel like he probably should have made the defensive second team this year. And I feel like or last season. And I think he definitely has the capabilities to make a defensive team this upcoming season.
Yeah, I'll go with short answer is no. Long answer is he's not going to be able to do it while guys like like Dan said, you still got your Giannis's out there, you still got, Rudy Gobert, you still got Kawhi Leonard, and of course LeBron's going to be trying to go for it because it's the one award he doesn't have yet. So he's going to be going for that really hard. But yeah, like you guys said, he could probably end up on all defensive second team. He should have been this past recent year. He probably can get a, maybe all NBA defense team this year again, or for the first time. But I just think while those other guys are in the league, it's not going to happen. And not to mention, we're not even entirely sure if he's going to start next season. There could be, some trades that move around to where he ends up, becoming a 6 man. And if he's a 6 man, he's definitely not going to get it.
Yeah,
Maybe
you
that's
can't just be like a defensive specialist off the bench. And win
yeah,
Defensive Player of the Year.
it's not going to happen like that. So again, short answer is no. As much as I'd like to see it, I just don't think it'll happen. But Anthony, you can hop right into that second NBA question we've got now.
The second question was who could be the new Rockets coach? I have 2 candidates for it. My first one, no one probably has ever heard of him, is Chris Finch. Chris Finch worked with Mike Malone on the Nuggets and with Alvin Gentry on the Pelicans. He's a very smart and creative coach. He has been in the Rockets system before. He used to be the head coach of their G League team, the Vipers. And he also worked with Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse was his assistant coach in the British National League. So we saw the success of Nick Nurse's first year coaching, and with Kawhi Leonard winning the title in Toronto and making Toronto a very top team in the East. So that's my first candidate, and my second is a person that we all know, Sam Castle. He's a former player, NBA champion. Castle did play down in Houston. Castle has never been a coach. That's the only knock on him. He's unexperienced. He's about to graduate from Doc Rivers coaching school. And just the thing that appeals Houston is, besides that he's from there, is that he's a point guard. He was a leader when he played, and like how Nash is now the coach of the Brooklyn Nets, just point guards and leader. His IQ of the game, he's not seeing it as a outsider. He's seen it as if he's playing the game. He's in the game and he's seeing movement. So I think that'll be very good for the Rockets. Between whoever they pick, I think out of those two would be a very good candidate.
Dan, you got anything to add to those?
Yeah, I mean, those two candidates definitely seem like they would be good, but there's always the good candidate and the candidate that gets picked. So I guess we'll have to see. And in terms of, I just want to bring this up really quick. NBA coaching news: Stan Van Gundy is the new coach of the Pelicans. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, so he's off the board. So the Rockets won't be getting him. Also, if you didn't know Doc Rivers didn't have a coaching school, you're not alone. Neither did I. Thank you for that information, Anthony. But yeah, I'm not too well rounded on my knowledge of available coaches in the NBA. So I'll take Anthony's word that those two guys should be the top candidates that the Rockets look at. Houston Rockets, if you are watching this, don't hire Brett Brown.
Yes, stay away.
That's not going to help
Stay
your team at
away.
all. It'll probably just make them worse. So I would say hire anyone but Brett Brown. I'd say you'd have a better job. You do a better job hiring us three. I like James Harden. I think Dan likes James Harden too.
Mhm.
So
Big Harden fan.
we'll get that team to the finals. That's a guarantee. All right. And then the last question, we'll use this as a segue into the next part of the podcast. After the first two games of the World Series is tied 1-1. Me and Dan both had the Dodgers. Anthony, you had the Rays. We now apparently have the option to change our picks. Is anyone going to change their pick, or are we sticking with what we've got so far?
I'm sticking with Rays in 7.
Yeah, still gonna go Dodgers in 6. I mean,
I
they
agree.
split 1-1. We knew it'd be competitive, so I don't see any reason to jump shit quite yet.
Yeah. Dan, here we go again with me and you being on the same wavelength. Dodgers in 6. It's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so game 1 on Tuesday, Dodgers won that pretty dominantly. Clayton Kershaw had an amazing outing. Only gave up 2 hits. Glass now, he had his first, rocky performance of the playoffs. He's been pretty good up to this point. But, Dodgers won that one pretty dominantly. And then the exact opposite happens in game 2. Believe Blake Snell was on the mound for the Rays, and he pitched an absolute gem. It was a bullpen game for the Dodgers. They started the game with Tony Gonsolin, and they used bullpen arms throughout the game. Dustin May came in for a little bit. And the Rays ended up winning game 2 6-4. So I think game 3 on Friday, as we look back at the Sports King board, you could see the weekend slate for the World Series. Game 1 on Friday, game 3 is on Friday. Game 4 is on Saturday, and game 5 was on Sunday. The matchup for game 3 right now is Walker Buehler versus Charlie Morton. So that should be a very exciting pitching duel, as both guys look to go deep into the game to, rest up their bullpen a little bit. And I guess I'll just ask, what have you guys thought of the series so far? Any surprises? Any things that teams should work on to give themselves a better shot to win the series? What do we got?
The key in this series is getting ahead early. It's harder to play when you're down than when you're up. And as you saw in today's game and in game 2 and in game 1, the team who gets ahead first won. Things that each team have to look to avoid is a big inning. When I mean big inning is more than 3 runs. That's a huge momentum changer. And just the bats, like we said this for our prediction, the bats will be rolling in this series. The bats are on fire with like 4 home runs within the past 2 games. And it just Kershaw did pitch amazing. 6 innings, 1 earned run, 2 hits, and only 78 pitches, which is a very good pitch count. And in the past, the Dodgers would leave him in to go another inning to kind of save their bullpen a little, but I think it was very smart to pull him out because now you're not overusing Kershaw. 78 pitches he finished with. He's going to go up to 80 to 90. Your arm's getting tired. The batters are now even more settled in against you. So I think that's a very smart move. And I think when Kershaw pitches again, not probably later in the series, not going to be a game 7, but maybe a game 5 or 6, that they do the same thing if he's playing how he did in game 1. And Blake Snell did pitch amazing. And for now, after game 3, the Rays are really going to be in bullpen baseball. They're going to have a starter, and then after 3 to 4 innings, they're going to go to bullpen, and after an inning, they're going to go to bullpen again. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I guess I'll just have to say it was good to see Clayton Kershaw pitch to the, level that we all know he can pitch. He's had his postseason / World Series woes before. So, especially if you're a Dodgers fan, it was a very good sign to see him pitching well.
Yeah, and here's an interesting point I want to cover. The World Series is going to be the first series that either of these teams play this postseason where they'll have breaks in between some of the games. They've got an off day on Thursday. There won't be a game played on Thursday, and they'll have another one on Monday. So throughout the playoffs, they've just been going straight through. If you've got a 5-game series, you're going to play 5 games in 5 days. Got a 7-game series, you're going to play 7 games in 7 days. So what team is going to benefit more from these off days that they're going to get now?
The Rays, definitely. As I said, the Rays bullpen is not as deep as the Dodgers are. And now with the Rays having that off day, both Snell and Glasnow have that extra day to where in game 5 and 6, if they're on, they can stay 7 innings in a game and not pitch 3 or 4. And then that also gives Fairbanks in the bullpen a little bit of more rest. And Fairbanks is a rookie, and he's doing great as his first season as closing for the Rays.
I would be inclined to agree with what he said. It would probably benefit the Rays more.
Yeah, it definitely benefits both teams. The rest for the starters is going to be great. I think Anthony makes a good point. We'll probably see Clayton Kershaw pitch in game 5. He's known for making starts on a short rest. I think he's got the most in the MLB since, I believe, 2012 maybe. So, and Anthony also made a really good point earlier where, a big factor in the series is whoever scores first. The Rays, fun fact, are 32-7 this season, which is the best record in the MLB when scoring the first run. So if they can get on the board first and, keep piling those runs, it's going to be very important, especially with the high-powered offense that the Dodgers have. And I make that point. If you go check out my article on the website, the World Series preview I put up, I make that point pretty frequently that the Rays need to score. It's very important. And they also need their starters to go deep into the game because the bullpen, for how good it's been a lot more shaky than their starters have been. So it's going to be important for guys like Morton and for guys like Glasnow and, of course, Blake Snell to go deep into the games and, keep the pitching going. And that's also a very big thing for the Dodgers, that their starters are able to go deep in games. Like Anthony said, Kershaw went 6 in game 1, and they had a bullpen game for game 2. So it's understandable. I think Gonsolin only went 1 1/3 maybe. I think a bullpen game in game 2 was a good idea for the Dodgers. It was a game that, you hate to say it, but they could afford to lose it. It's not the end of the world if they lose this game, especially because they won game 1. So with the series tied 1-1, it makes sense. They gave Walker Buehler a few extra days of rest. So he'll be able to pitch game 3, and they'll hope to go up 2-1 in the series. And, yeah, all I know is when we talk about this on our weekend installment of the podcast, it's going to be a whole different series by that time. Mm-hmm. So maybe ask that same question, see if any of us want to change our predictions this coming weekend. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk college football. We've got a pretty good week in college football coming up. The Big Ten finally returns. They come back Friday night. Illinois are going to play Wisconsin in Wisconsin. And then, other big games. Penn State plays Indiana. Nebraska plays Ohio State. And then pretty decently sized game Saturday night. Michigan are going to play Minnesota. And then some other games. Anthony, I mentioned the Pitt Notre Dame game where he sees an upset happening. Number 9, Cincinnati is going to play number 16, SMU. Clemson is going to play Syracuse this weekend. North Carolina, another game of ranked teams. North Carolina is going to play NC State. Alabama plays Tennessee, and an SEC game that it's made to excite, but I think we all see how it's going to go. Another ranked game. Iowa State's going to play Oklahoma State. And that's about it for all the big games. But it's going to be a fun week, especially with the return of the Big Ten. It's going to add a lot more games for more enjoyment. What do you guys see from this weekend? You see any other upsets? Anthony, I know you talked about the Pitt Notre Dame game. Do you guys see any other upsets coming?
I see NC State upsetting number 14 UNC. NC State they both played basically kind of the same teams, both Virginia Tech. But UNC played poorly last week, especially in the first half. They did score 20 points in the second, but NC State they come out shooting, so UNC has to be better in the first half, definitely. And then for the Big Ten returning, Penn State versus Indiana, and I'm sorry, Dom, for mentioning this. I know you're a huge Penn State fan, but running back Journey Brown will not be playing this season due to medical problems. So that's a big loss for Penn State. And another big loss that we already knew was Mekhi Parsons is not going to be on that defensive side. So, Penn State is going to be interesting. I still think they're going to beat Indiana, but just what are they going to do now with their run game with Journey Brown being out?
Well, to that point, Penn State has a bunch of other running backs. My dad actually sent me a
Is
video.
Ricky Slade still there?
I don't believe so. I think he transferred out.
Oh, man.
But he was pretty good. If he is still there, then he can step up. But my dad actually sent me a video about a week back, I believe, of a running back. I've got it right here. I'm going to butcher this first name. Ceziah Holmes. He's a freshman. He got absolutely up and hurdled some guy in a very impressive play. So, if he could step up, that'd be nice. And you make the point about Micah Parsons. It's a big loss, but I think you forget Penn State as linebacker U. So, we've got a lot of guys in the wings who are ready to step up, especially because we've known Parsons is going to be out for a while now. I think we figured out who's going to step up and who's going to play where and who's going to take over his role. It's a decent sized hole that he left in the team. He was looking at getting, all the awards for best linebacker, best defensive player, All-American, stuff like that. But I think, the Penn State defense will be fine without him. It'd be great if they did have him, but I think they'll be just fine without him. And, I think the offense will also be good. So I imagine Penn State will be all right.
And final thing, Ohio State's starting. They versus Nebraska first game, and everyone's focused on Lawrence, Mac Jones, and they're the two top runners for the Heisman. Lawrence beating Mac Jones by a lot, but can't forget about Justin Fields. Jones and Lawrence have a head start on him, but Justin Fields, the number 2 ranked prospect as a quarterback behind Lawrence, he's very good. Can throw the ball down the field. He's very fast. Kind of reminds me of like a Kyler Murray. So let's see, how Justin Fields plays, his first week. We can compare it to Lawrence to see if his numbers are going to be close for taking his Heisman spot away from him.
Dan, anything you got in college football this week?
Not really. I mean, I think Clemson's gonna, smoke Syracuse, and I'm just kind of excited to see Big Ten football back. See if Michigan can just fumble the bag like they usually do. That'll be pretty.
They
funny.
always find a way to.
Yeah. So, I'm just Big Ten football's back. It's great to see.
It's gonna be great, and you can be damn sure we're gonna talk about it on the weekend installment of the podcast. So I think we'll leave it at there for college football for now, and let's move into the big part. This weekend we're gonna go back to the board. UFC 254 live from Fight Island, Abu Dhabi. Habib Nurmagomedov is going to defend his lightweight title against Justin Gaethje in one of the most highly anticipated main events in recent memory. And guys, let's just hop right into it. This main card is just full of, good fights. And it starts off with, one of the fights I went over in my UFC 254 preview. Magomed Ankalaev is going to go up against Ivan Cutelaba in a fight that I think, it should be pretty good. These two fought back in, I believe it was February they fought, and it ended in like 30 seconds after a very controversial stoppage where, it looked like Cutelaba was rocked, but he was just weaseling Ankalaev in. And, the referee fell for it as well. So he stopped the fight there, and these guys were scheduled, I believe they were scheduled to fight back in August, and it got scrapped because one of them caught COVID, and then it was supposed to happen again in September, but then it got scrapped again because the other one got COVID. And now it's finally going to happen. We're finally going to see these two face off again. There's a lot of bad blood blowing between these two guys, so it's going to, finally reach its height for their second fight this coming weekend. Do you guys have any takes on how this fight's going to play out or any winners?
I guess just kind of like how you're saying how there's bad blood and the fight's been getting pushed back and back. I think, it'll be a good fight. I like that they do have bad blood. I think when that, when the fighters are, feuding or rivaling, it makes the fight more interesting because, a lot of the time the guys, they're just fighters. It's their job, and they just want to compete and just be the best competitor, which is good. Fighters don't always have to have this like feud, but I think this will make the fight more exciting, especially considering the last way the fight ended.
I'm gonna take the upset with Cutelaba. Did I say that right, Dom?
Ivan Cutelaba.
I'm gonna take the upset. The bad blood of him losing the first fight. I think it's his revenge tour right now, especially, and I'm gonna take him as the upset.
Again, Anthony, I'm disagreeing with you. I think Cutelaba is a great fighter. But the thing is, I said it in my my UFC 254 preview. I think Magomed Ankalaev is the best fighter that no one's ever heard of. He's another one of those Russian guys who will get you to the ground. He'll absolutely maul you, but he's also very good standing up. And he's got he's so technical on the feet and even on the ground. It's like he's not gonna go in there. This is what Cutelaba will do. Cutelaba is gonna go in there and he's going to throw 45 punches, and he's going to look to knock Ankalaev's head right off in the beginning seconds of the fight. And I don't expect it to happen. If it does, then he'll win the fight there. Cutelaba will. But if not, then it's Ankalaev's fight to lose at that point. Because Cutelaba's gas tank isn't all that well. So if Ankalaev can, keep the pace, control the pace of the fight, he likes to explode in flurries at points. So he'll go crazy at some points, and then he'll wait. He'll wait for you. He'll sucker you in. He'll catch you slipping. He'll see you overreacting and overextending, and then, he'll go for a counter shot or he'll go for a takedown, and he'll just end the fight there. My official prediction in the article I had Ankalaev winning this fight by second round TKO, and I'm sticking with that. I think it's going to happen. I just, like I said, the only way Cutelaba wins this fight is if he knocks him out within the first 20 seconds. And I think Ankalaev is just too smart to get suckered into that. So I'm gonna go Ankalaev to win the fight. And I think it'll get him into the rankings and get him a more high profile fight for his next fight as he looks to move up in the rankings and hopefully one day maybe get a title shot. All right, so the next fight we've got a flyweight women's bout. Lauren Murphy is going to take on, and I'm probably going to butcher this first name, Lilia Shakarova. I think good enough. Yeah. And I imagine Lauren Murphy heard our comments about Jessica Andrade getting the next flyweight title shot because she seems very upset. She wants a title shot. She thinks she wins this fight. She deserves a title shot. And I don't blame her. I think she does win this fight. I think she does it, pretty easily, honestly. I think she wins the fight. But again, I still think Andrade gets the title fight. Sorry, Lauren Murphy. But yeah, I'm going to take Lauren Murphy. I feel like this is, not necessarily an easy pick, but it's more so of an obvious one for me, at least. If you guys have anything on to say about the fight, go for it.
If I have Murphy winning also, and the way that for her to get, more thought of for that title fight. I think she's gonna have to win by knockout and like a manner and fashion that is going to be memorable. Not having, I think she has to knock her out in the first round, make something that will stick in the brains of the people who decided the title fight. So I think for Murphy to get that title fight, she's got to win right away with a knockout.
That's a interesting take. I'm gonna have to agree with Dom though. I mean, we talked about it last podcast about Andrade's chance to, or her deservability to get that title shot. So I'm gonna have to stick with what we said last week.
Very good, short and sweet. Next fight, it's more of a low-profile fight. Jacob Malkoun, he's going to make his UFC debut against Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series alumni, Philip Hawes. I'm not going to lie, I don't know much about these guys, but I watched Philip Hawes on the Contender Series, very impressive knockout his last time out. So I'm just going to go with him just because I don't know anything about Malkoun. Malkoun is 4-0. Hawes is 8-2. Feel free to make a prediction on those guys if you got any.
I picked the upset in Malkoun's his debut. It's a big day. He's probably been thinking of this since he first started MMA. So I'm gonna pick the upset, beating Halls.
I'm gonna have to go with Hawes. I really don't know much about these two fighters, so
Fair enough, Dan.
I'll go with Hawes.
All right, and then we've got heavyweight matchup. Alexander Volkov is going to take on Walt Harris. This is a pretty interesting matchup. I like this. Harris is really good standing up, and so is Volkov, which makes this fight very interesting. I believe the last time we saw Volkov was when he fought Curtis Blades, and he got absolutely manhandled by him. Even though Curtis Blades didn't look all that good in that fight, but I think officially I'm going to take Walt Harris in this fight. He got really close to beating Alistair Overeem his last time out. He almost had him out in the first round, but then, it's Alistair Overeem, so he ended up winning the fight. But I wouldn't count Volkov out of this fight. He's got a lot of experience. He's not new to the rodeo, so I wouldn't count him out. But I think I'm going to take Walt Harris. I like Walt Harris. He's a great guy. If you don't know him, get to know him. He's it's a very sad story that I won't dive too deep into right here, right now. But he lost his stepdaughter earlier this year, I believe. It was a whole process. So Walt Harris, great guy. Everyone's rooting for him, even if you are Russian, rooting for Volkov. But I think Walt Harris wins this fight. He probably gets a knockout.
I would have to disagree. I think Volkov's experience is gonna help him beat Harris, and they're both good standing up, and it's gonna be fun to watch. I'm a kind of person who likes. I don't like when they go to the ground. I like standing up, throwing punches. So I think it's gonna be fun to watch for this match.
I'm gonna have to agree with Dom again. Like I do think Volkov's experience is definitely going to come in handy, especially if it goes like later in the rounds. But if Harris, like you said, put up a good performance against Alistair Overeem, then I mean he is a fantastic fighter. So if you can, if you can compete, which he did, he competed with the likes of a guy like Overeem, I think it will give him the edge in this fight.
All right, very well. Let's move on. A fight that is very interesting to me. The co-main event. Former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker is going to fight Jared Cannonier in a very interesting fight. I think this is going to probably end up being fight of the night if it isn't for the main event. I'm going to get your guys' opinion on this first, and then I'm going to talk about it. So why don't one of you go first?
I'm gonna take Whittaker. I think with Whittaker, I think he's a better fighter, and he wants his name to be back on the pedestal he used to have it on.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I think that Whittaker is going to take this fight. He's like Anthony just said, he's probably hungry to get back to champion status, and I think whoever wins this fight will probably be deserving of a shot at the title.
both hit the nail right on the head. I think Whitaker does win this fight. I think it'll be close. I think he gets a decision win. I think he scrapes it out. I really like Cannonier though. The guy fought at heavyweight, got wins there. And then he fought at light heavyweight, got wins there. And now he's at middleweight, where it's looked like he's finally found a home, and he's getting wins there too. But I think Robert Whitaker is just so good all around. He's great on the feet. You know, we know he's got a chin. He stood in there with Yoel Romero for almost an hour, and you know, Yoel couldn't put him away. We all know how much power Yoel Romero's got. So, I mean, you look at him as like, oh yeah, he got destroyed by Adesanya. Everyone got destroyed by Adesanya. You know, look at Paul Acosta. Paul Acosta just got embarrassed by Israel Adesanya. You know, you can't even compare them. It's like, look at the middleweight division. There's like, there's the okay guys, there's the great guys, there's the good guys, there's the elite guys, and then there's Israel Adesanya. So like, Adesanya is on a completely different playing field than these guys are. But I agree with you guys. I think Whitaker wins this fight. I think he's, you know, I'm not gonna say it's too much for Kenny to handle. He's fighting at middleweight now, but he's still got the heavyweight power. You know, and he's got nasty leg kicks. He finished one of the greatest of all times, Anderson Silva, with leg kicks, and one of the craziest moments I've ever seen, because the outrage the Brazilian crowd had was amazing, and he just endured all of it. It was great. But I like Cannonier a lot, but I think Whitaker wins the fight. He gets the decision. I wouldn't be surprised if he knocks him out or finishes it, but I think he gets a decision in a close fight.
We finally agree to each other, but I feel like that's about to come to the end with the main event.
I most definitely will. Let's get right into it. Undefeated lightweight champion, 28-0, Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov is going to defend his title against the guy who doesn't like to be called it, but he is the interim champion, Justin Gaethje. Guys, go for it first, because I got a lot to say on this.
Yeah, I'm the villain tonight, so I'm gonna say I'm going with Khabib to beat Gaethje. Khabib's he's going for 30-0. He has to win this. He's going for his 29th win. He said that I'm going to choke you out, and I truly believe he will. He's the best fighter in the world, and Gaethje is a very good fighter. He's probably one of the best, right behind Khabib, but I don't think Khabib's taken every top fighter down he's faced, and I think he's going to do the same thing here.
All right. I am going to have to disagree. I'm going to go with
This
Justin
is where it gets good,
Gaethje
folks.
to win the fight. I saw Justin Gaethje fight live. Dom was there with me, and just the way, I don't know, he just got me instantly as soon as Dom. Do you remember who he was fighting? It was a Brazilian.
Edson Barboza.
Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza came out to the Rocky theme song, and he is not from Philadelphia, and not everyone like that. And Gaethje was just able to just win everybody over, and he beat Edson Barboza, and he did the backflip like he always does. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not saying he's gonna win just because I'm a fan of him, even though I am a fan. I just think that he's the best matchup that Khabib has faced so far, because he's faced guys obviously like Conor, who's a great striker, but he can't really wrestle. So I think that Gaethje brings the best of both. Like in terms of wrestling, he's probably second best in the division, and then his striking is very high as well. So I think the combination of both it'll push him over the edge, and we're gonna see hopefully like a great fight, one of the best we've seen in a while. So I am going with Justin Gaethje.
And me and Dan are sharing a brain tonight. So I'm going to get right into it, honestly. I think, Dan, you hit the nail right on the head when you said, stylistically, this is one of Khabib's hardest matchups. He's never gone up against a pure wrestler like Justin Gaethje is. Justin Gaethje was a D1 wrestler in college. So, he's never faced anyone like that. And Dan makes a great point. He fought Conor McGregor, who's not a wrestler. I don't think that guy's ever wrestled a day in his life. He fought Dustin Poirier, who is most definitely better at wrestling than Conor, but he's not a wrestler. He fought Al Iaquinta, who's probably the hardest wrestler he fought, and even he's not a wrestler. And then, you look at Edson Barboza, who's, again, not a wrestler. You look at Michael Johnson, who's not a wrestler. You look at Rafael dos Anjos, not a wrestler. So I think it's going to be different for Habib. I'm not going to say he's going to struggle wrestling. I'm not going to say he's going to struggle getting takedowns, but it's going to be different for Habib. So here's how I see it playing out. There's two ways this fight happens. Justin Gaethje needs to apply pressure the entire fight. If he applies pressure, you see it in almost all of Habib's fight. If the opponent is attacking Habib, Habib's backing up. He's on his back foot. He's running. He's on his bike, and he's going. He's circling the cage, or he's going up against the cage, and he's off balance at all times. And you can see it. His boxing is not the best. We've seen it. Al Iaquinta exposed his boxing. If Al Iaquinta first Habib in a boxing match, Al Iaquinta would have easily won. But unfortunately, it was an MMA fight. It wasn't a boxing fight. And the thing about it is when he went up against Conor, he never gave Conor the chance to throw punches. It was always, okay, you're going right to the ground, buddy. And then the round started, and okay, you're going right back to the ground. And the same thing was with Poirier. He got, Poirier landed some strikes, and Poirier actually landed a guillotine, clean guillotine at some point, but Habib just, got his way out of it. So Gaethje's got to stay on his feet. That's the number one priority. He's got to stuff the takedowns. He's got to stay on his feet. And if he does go down, he's got to try and get up as soon as possible. Because if you stay down there, that's where the fight's going to end. Habib is going to finish him there. He'll choke him out. He'll maul him. Elbows, punches, knees, everything. So Justin Gaethje's got to apply pressure. He's got to stuff the takedowns, and he's got to defend. He's been known to take some punches. He took a lot of punches in the Tony Ferguson fight. He took a lot of punches when he fought Dustin Poirier. He took a lot of unnecessary shots when he fought Eddie Alvarez. But those fights were a while ago. He's a whole different fighter now. He's a brand new fighter. He's a much better fighter than he was then. And he's just so electric. If he lands clean shots, he's going to knock out Habib. Habib doesn't have, the greatest chin of all time. Like I said, Al Iaquinta exposed that. He landed so many good combos against him. And, Conor got a few combos in there, but he wasn't able to land any of them clean. But I think if Gaethje can apply pressure and, get some good shots off and stuff the takedowns and defend smartly and manage his energy smartly so where he's not absolutely gassed by the end of the first round, then I think he's going to win this fight, honestly. I think he takes the O. And not to mention, I think Justin Gaethje is one of the best trainers in mixed martial arts, Trevor Whitman, who's one of the smartest minds there is out there. I look back at that Tony Ferguson fight he had, and, he's telling him, you got to take 10% off your shots. You're looking to kill him with every single shot. And, he did that, and he saved his energy, and he ends up winning that fight in very dominant fashion. And, Trevor Whitman's also like, you see him going from the fourth round to the fifth round in between fights. Trevor Whitman's like, stop getting all excited. The fight's not over. He's like, you've done this before, and you've ended up losing the fight. And Justin's like, yeah, I did it twice. So Justin knows. Justin, not only is he a fighter, but he's a fan of the game. He knows what Habib's going to try and do. He knows he's going to try and wrestle him. He knows he's going to try and take him down. He knows he's going to try, get him against the cage. So Justin is smart. His fight IQ is very high. He's not going to let that happen. Or at least, I hope he doesn't let that happen, because if he does let it happen, then it's not going to end well for him. So Gaethje, like I said multiple times, he's got to apply the pressure. If he applies the pressure, the fight's his to lose, honestly. And, I really like this because someone asked a question at the press conference on Wednesday. It's like if they felt like these guys were representing their country since there's no Olympics. And Justin Gaethje is like, yeah, I feel like I'm Rocky and, I'm fighting Drago. And, it's like that. He traveled halfway across the world to go fight this, crazy Russian, this unbeatable Russian. And, he looks to be the first guy to beat him. And I've said it in my UFC 254 preview. And, me and Dan, we've been talking about this fight for a long time now. And I've been so back and forth about, who I'm going to pick and when it's going to happen. But I think I'm finally, at the point where if everything that I think is going to happen, I think Justin Gaethje wins this fight, second round knockout. That's my official prediction. But again, it could very easily go to Habib. Like I said, with the mauling and the wrestling and the takedowns and the pressure he can apply, it could be too much for Justin. But, if he manages his energy well, and the biggest key for Justin, I don't know how many times I can say this, is to apply pressure. If he doesn't apply pressure, if he doesn't have Habib on his back foot the entire fight, then he's going to lose. There's no chance. He doesn't have a chance. And that's just the way it is with Habib, because the other guys never did. There's this, like at the beginning, I think it's the second round in the Poirier fight, Poirier just starts throwing, and Habib is scrambling back, and you can just see him running the entire time. So if Gaethje can do that and land power punches and land significant strikes, then it'll help. And another thing he's got to do is if he can land leg kicks. Tony Ferguson got hit with so many leg kicks in their fight that his shin started bleeding from blocking them. That's a lot of leg kicks. So I think if he can do that, if he can get Khabib's legs, all worn down, then again, he'll have a very good chance of winning this fight. And I'm running out of breath talking about this fight.
Tom, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
That was very good. What you just said. Kind of persuading me to pick Gaethje. Trojan man himself. But if we all know that Khabib wants to go 30-0 and retire, and on his 30th fight, he wants to fight GSP. If he loses this fight, does he retire because that 30-0 factor is not there anymore?
That's an interesting question. I think if he does lose this fight, it changes a big narrative. I think instead of looking for 30-0, he looks to get back at Gaethje. I think that'll probably be a rematch.
He'll definitely want to avenge his loss.
And then I'm not sure where he goes from there. I think if he does lose this fight, then there's more of an opportunity for there to be a Conor rematch. Because I don't think he wants the Conor rematch because of the undefeated record part. And, I think the last thing he wants is Conor to be the guy to take away his undefeated record. So I think that's why he doesn't want Conor right now. I think if he were to lose this fight and then say him and Gaethje fight again in April and he ends up winning that fight, well, then obviously there's going to be a trilogy fight. And say he ends up beating Gaethje in the trilogy fight, then maybe at that point he'd be 30-1. So maybe he's like, all right, one more fight. He'd be 30-1.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Because a loss to Gaethje, that'd be his first loss, and then the first win in the second fight would be 29, and then the trilogy fight would make it 30. So I think at that point, then he's really looking at the tail end of his career, because at this point, timeline-wise, we're in October of 2021, and Khabib has been talking about calling it quits for a while now. I think he if he wins the fight and gets 30-0, that's it for him. He's done. But I think if this ends up going into a trilogy fight, like I just talked about, then the possibility of it being a McGregor fight, is very big. It could happen. Again, I don't know what Conor's going to do with his MMA career. He's supposed to fight Poirier in January, but then again, he's supposed to go fight Manny Pacquiao at some point. So
you never know with Conor.
I don't know. I think the sport is so unpredictable that even if Khabib loses, like I said, he's going to go for the Gaethje fight, and then after that, I don't know what he could do. He could retire. He could just go Tony Ferguson for the hell of it. He could just be like, okay, Tony, so many times me and you tried to fight and we never could. I think that fight's been scrapped like 5 times. The fight is absolutely cursed. But yeah, there's a whole lot of things he could do if he loses this fight and, ends up losing an eventual rematch with Gaethje if that's the case. There's a whole lot of things he could do, but I don't know. I couldn't answer that question just because of how many possibilities there are.
But you answered it good. I want to get your mindset and you let everyone know if he loses. And we talked about last week, Khabib's goal is 30-0 and then retire. What could happen? So you answered it well.
I appreciate that. I try my best. Anything else you guys want to touch upon for UFC 254?
Nope, just enjoy it. Go out with your friends.
Stay safe. Social distance, wear a mask.
Yes.
We're in the middle of a pandemic, people. I guess I'll just highlight some quick prelim fights. We won't go through them. Stefan Struve takes on Dan's favorite, Tai Tuivasa, on the prelims. I'm looking for Tuivasa to win that fight just so he gets a shoey, but I don't know how he's going to do it. There's going to be no fans there. Whose shoe is he going to take?
The refs.
That would be weird. Cowboy Alex Oliveira, he fights. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this guy's name. I'm just kidding. I am. Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's 12-0. I don't know how that fight's going to play out. I don't know how good Shavkat is, but good luck to him. Sam Alvey takes on Da Un Jung. Sam Alvey is a pretty big name in MMA, so that's an interesting one. And that's about it. UFC 254, as I mentioned, live on Fight Island this Saturday, October 24th. Early start time. Main card comes on at 2 p.m. with the prelims on at 12. So, European fans, you're going to enjoy this card. You don't have to stay up until 5 a.m. to watch it. It's going to be great. And you should watch this fight. Dana White is saying this could potentially break the pay-per-view buy record, which is currently held. I think it's somewhere over 2 million for Habib and Connor. That holds the record right now. But Dana White says this is trending off the charts and could potentially break that. The record this year is the Masvidal Usman card, which was, I want to say, around 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. So I think that definitely has potential to break it. If Dana White's saying it could be the all-time record, then that would be interesting. So we'll see what happens. And that's UFC 254, as I said, on Saturday. Go check it out. Enjoy it. It's going to be great. I'm going to be tweeting about it most of the time, probably. Go follow us on Twitter at sports__kingdom. I'll be live tweeting. I'll be reacting to all the fights probably because I'll have nothing better to do with my time besides watching those fights. I think that's going to wrap up episode 4, guys. I think we've touched upon everything. Another, I would say fantastic episode.
Pink Out edition.
Pink Out edition. First ever Pink Out edition. Real quick, we'll talk about what's coming up for the website so far. What's soon to come. As Anthony mentioned, his Clemson Tigers article went up on Wednesday. Go check that out. On Thursday, I've got an article where I play Sean Shelby. I'm going to be matchmaking some UFC potential fights. I clean up some divisions. I look at some potential fights we can make in the future, where certain fighters go. That's part 1. There's going to be a part 2 that comes out in the following weeks. On Friday, I start my NHL power rankings. Teams 31 through 26 are going to be revealed. And that's going to be a weekly thing that's going to come out every Friday until eventually we reach the finish line. Dan, do you have any articles coming out this weekend?
Maybe. I think I want to write an article about just the absurd amount of injuries that have happened in the NFL so far and kind of take a deeper look just to see what's going on and just how deeply these injuries have impacted the game, because so many high level, high name players have been injured this year in comparison. So I think I might take a look at that. I know by week 8, I want to do a mid-season awards article about the NFL, and I'm definitely going to sprinkle a few soccer articles in there too. So stay tuned.
Anthony, got anything coming up you want to tell us about?
On Friday or Saturday, you're going to see an article about college basketball, what to expect, the new kids on campus, and then in the beginning of the week, probably by Wednesday, I just did an article on Clemson, and then now I'm going to do one on who is the other favorite team to meet them in the national championship, the Alabama Crimson Tide, and how their season's going, their two mighties, and then a first mock draft 1.0 is going to be posted, hopefully at next weekend, or even might have the Alabama article on the weekend and have the mock draft during the week. So that's what is on my agenda. And then Tennyson, I talked to him. He's probably going to help me a little with the mock draft and give me his insider, what he thinks for what each team are in the mock draft. It's only going to be the first round, and for the lottery picks 1 to 14 is going to have a very good description and explanation why these players would fit. We're going with no trades happening in this mock draft 1.0, so just stay tuned.
Awesome. And we'll get one last look at the Sports King board for the episode. As you can see, big weekend coming up, UFC 254 on Saturday, World Series games all throughout the weekend, Thursday Night Football, Giants versus Eagles, and then Big Ten football returns Friday, as I mentioned, with that Wisconsin-Illinois game. This was our first ever Pink Out. Make sure you follow us on all forms of social media, Instagram, Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And of course, we want to thank you for all of your support. We appreciate you all. We're still having a great time doing this. And of course, special shout out to Haley for the drugs. You're great. We love you. We love all of you. That's going to do it for us for tonight. We're going to catch you all in the next one, episode 5. Make sure you check it out on the weekend. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to recap all NFL games. We're going to talk more World Series. We're going to recap the UFC fights. We're going to talk more soccer. We're going to do it all in episode 5. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe to the YouTube, turn on notifications, drop a like on this video, leave us a comment. And, follow us on all other forms of social media. Hit us up. Tell us what you want to hear about, all right? We love hearing from you guys, by the fans, for the fans. That's what we're all about here. Guys, any last words?
Remember
to
to
wear
try your
pink.
best to donate. Yeah, and wear pink or just spread awareness in general.
Anthony, anything else?
Wear pink tomorrow. Send us a picture.
Wear pink. Send us the picture. You'll be featured for all of our small fan base to see. And, yeah. I guess that's it, guys. So,
See you next time.
see you in episode 5, everyone. Have a great day. We'll catch you later. Adios.